Hi and welcome. In today's episode, I'm having a chat with a gentleman by the name of Mr. Michael Simon. Mike is a friend of mine, has been for about 7 years now. He's a family man, he's an entrepreneur, and we talk about various things in this 45-minute chat. Life on an island. He lives in Fiji with his family, formerly from Adelaide. It was one of their long-term dreams to live on a Fijian island and to actually build a resort over there. We talk about how to recover from a bad day. We even go down the track of talking about anxiety and depression, which is, as you know, something that can hit all of us. We talk about how to, work-life integration, how to make sure that you don't neglect parts of your life. You can still be successful in all areas of life. How do you balance that? We talk about how to cross-fertilize your skills from one business to the other. We talk about the low points that you hit, not only in life, but in business as well, and how to work your way out of that. He's also got some tips for any of you guys that are either setting out to start a new business, or maybe you might be stuck in your existing business and you need a little bit of a boost. Absolutely amazing, gentlemen. You'll love this interview. And whoever wanted you to see this, make sure you get back to them and have a chat about, what's next for them. So enjoy the chat. Mike, how are you, man? Long time no see.
I'm good, thanks, Jan. I've been excited to jump on this podcast since you spoke with me about it last week. So good to be
Yeah.
here.
How are you guys going over there in Fiji? You're not getting rained out like the rest of the world?
No, we had that. We had 90 days of crazy weather events, two pretty hardcore cyclones, one Category 5, 320-kilometre-hour winds. And then 3-4 weeks after that, we had like the 100-year flood, like just, rivers 15 meters up on standard. So it's been an interesting start to 2021.
It sounds like it. I mean, you guys are pretty used to rain over there, but that's just ridiculous,
Yeah.
Awesome. So how, when all this sort of stuff happens, how do you, because this is quite a different lifestyle. We're going to talk a little bit about that. It's quite a different lifestyle to what we live here in Australia, because you're in Fiji. I don't know whether anyone on this call knows that you live in Fiji, where you moved 3 years ago, something like that. So how do you cope over there without the amenities and the stuff and the support and everything that's available, let's say in a country like Australia? You still got to get on with life.
Absolutely. That's part of the whole mental game. I guess a guy that we both love, Jim Rohn, he'll say the same wind will blow on us all. It's the setting of the sail that determines the destination, right? So it's just being transparent here. I don't think anybody is completely bulletproof from major disasters and major life impacts into your life like that. There were times where I was just, you just want to crawl into a ball and quit. It really was that bad, that devastating. Everything that you've worked towards, everything that you've built up for years, like 2-3 years, to get destroyed in one night. It's crazy. And so we're on 130 acres here. So, when you've got to clean up, it's not just like cleaning up the front yard or the backyard back in Australia. It's major. We've got probably about half a kilometre of beachfront, and that was piled up with debris like you wouldn't believe. And so, you sit back and you go, okay, well, have I had things go sideways in my life before? Absolutely I have, right? Everything worthwhile is uphill. So you go, okay, how did we get through that? I guess I've done a lot of stuff on personal development. I've built, a few businesses over the years, and a lot of stuff on goal setting. And sometimes when you set like a big goal, or there's a large outcome that you want to achieve, if you're thinking of the end result, just overwhelm kicks in and you sit back and you don't do anything. So literally I broke it down into manageable steps. It was, okay, well, let's first of all get the house functioning again. So let's get electricity back on, let's get internet back on, running generators and cords in a safe way. Let's get the windows unboarded, the stuff out of the house. Like, we had animals and stuff. It was crazy, right? So it was like Noah's Ark, our house. So yeah, let's get functioning back in this. And then it was like, then you step outside and you go, oh my God, look at this. And it's like, okay, well, let's just focus on the next square meter in front. And you've got to remember also at this time, when you've had a hurricane or a cyclone go through like that, there's not a leaf on a tree. So there's no shade. There's no clouds. After a cyclone like that, it's sucked every bit of bad weather into it and taken it away. So the sky is just incredibly clear. So you've got the sun beating down, you've got no shade, and you've got 100% humidity at about 30, 31 degrees, 32 degrees. So it's brutal as well. And so clearing 1 square meter would take, an hour or more. And so, but it was one step at a time. And so then once you got that, then it was like, okay, let's clear a path from the house to the beach. And then we just slowly worked on that. And then, in times of adversity, humans are amazing and they pull together. And you and I have been stuck in that same situation in Hamilton Island, right? And you just roll up your sleeves, you just get together and you get it done. And so, friends, neighbors, we just all chipped in and everyone's just helped everyone. And yes, Mother Nature takes a while to recover, trees, the reef, and so forth. But we're pretty much back to life as normal.
I can, in everything you were saying there, I felt a life analogy coming up, because those storms happens in life as well, don't they? I've been through my own storms, you've been through your storms, and that leads us to where we are today, because you go through that storm and then you realize sometimes you've got to take it back to basics and you've got to realize what's important. Where in life, I mean, let me go back, because I always like to explore the core of an individual and what's lying underneath. Have you had moments in your life where the cyclone really hit and you got stripped back to the bare tree, no leaves on it, and you thought, wow, it couldn't possibly get any worse right now, that then changed you as an individual?
Yep, many times. And every time it's happened, you think it's the last time it will ever happen. You think, cool, I'm done, I'm sorted, I'm back, I'm all good. But it's a cycle. It happens again. And it's part of the growth cycle. One of my great mentors, Mr. Rick Carney, he's a good friend of yours as well. Years ago now, I'm talking probably 10 years ago, I was in a crazy point in my life and getting stripped back, like you say, the storm, it was happening, right? There was too much month at the end of the money, like we like to say in business, paying wages and work cover and all of this sort of stuff, renovating a house. And he said something to me that I've never forgotten, and that's before every breakthrough, there's a breakdown. And so now just understanding that's part of the process and almost getting a little bit excited when I am like that, because then I'm like, okay, now the next big thing's coming. And for me, that was in the middle of last year, the last time that this has happened to me. And this is the thing that made no sense to me at all. Living the absolute dream life that I had pictured from the day that I can remember as a little kid. Living in an amazing tropical island paradise, fishing all the time, swimming, snorkeling, free diving, like growing our food, like residual income, like just this amazing life and everything in the world to be grateful for. And I hit rock bottom. And it was crazy. It was like, COVID kicking in, no travel, and, having it disrupt my usual routine. The missing puzzle piece for me, I didn't know it at the time, but the missing puzzle piece for me was working hard on something. Not having to work ended up being a curse for me and put me into a bit of a little bit of a depression. So I learned something about myself there and going, why are you unhappy? What's missing? And it took a coach, it took guidance, it took mentoring. Like I couldn't recognize it myself. But yeah, a great friend and a mentor said, you're doing everything right. You're doing everything right. But there's one thing you're not doing that I do when I get like that. And that's work my butt off. And I'm thinking, yeah, whatever. I don't need to work my butt off. Like this is crazy. I'm down. I'm in a downward spiral here. Why do I need to work my butt off? And I thought, what have I got to lose? This guy's many, many, many times more successful than me. And so, why wouldn't I listen to his advice? And sure enough, from that day on, I started working my butt off. And that night, I felt a lot better. That week, I felt amazing. And I just said to Rebecca, just before I jumped on this podcast, I've probably had the most productive month of my life, like in the last sort of 4 weeks. And now we're talking, this is like 6-7 months down the track from when I was in that slump. So yeah, it'll happen again at some point in my life. And it's just, every time it might not be shallower, they might be really deep, those downward spirals. But your repertoire of weapons and tools you can rip out to get out of it increases every time, and you don't stay there for long.
Well, let's hope we don't. Sometimes you stay there a little bit longer than what you wanted to. So here's what I like to explore in my own personal life. When you hit that, when you go down that spiral and you don't realize you're going until somebody actually points it out. Who are you? Who do you find down there? Who's the real Mike when you get down there? Do you see some great parts? Do you see some shitty parts? I'm sure there's bits you go, oh, I didn't really like seeing that part of me. Who do you find?
Yeah, the biggest part I didn't like, and the biggest thing that I've changed from there over the years, and everybody's, this depression and anxiety is such a common thing now. Everybody has their life touched by it in some way, whether it's them personally or a loved one that's close. So I had never personally had any sort of depression or anxiety before that, and people would come to me who did. And I would do what I could to help and suggest the things that I know, can change it. But deep down, I honestly, and again, just being transparent, I honestly used to think, well, part of me thinks you like being there because otherwise you'd just do it and get out of it, snap out of it. You would not be doing depression. The formula I used to think was quite simple. And so, yes, I would help the people and I would sort of sympathize for them, but I could never really relate. And so that when I was deep down in it and doing all the things that I know, what I was focusing on, the language I was using, the meditations and breathing and physical exercise, I was doing all of these things, and it still wasn't working. That's when I'm like, oh man, these people that I've been talking to, like now I know, now I can relate. And so, yeah, that part of me was like, man, maybe I haven't been such a good friend or mentor or guide to help people in the past. And so I guess looking for the positives out of it, having gone through that experience, I think I can now, sympathize greater with people and totally relate and connect and help them even more now to snap out of it and work their way towards feeling better.
Well, having known you for the last, nearly 7 years now, the last thing I thought we'd be talking about today is anxiety and depression. To me, you're the Mr. Motivated, driven, goal-focused planner. Just get down, get it done.
Yeah.
Don't deviate, don't go off the track. And yet here we are having that very conversation.
And so here's the thing, Jan. Never. I was in my 39th year when that had happened. And what I've learned from it is my default setting kept me from ever being depressed because, I've always been in, or not always, but I've been in business for the majority of my life, basically. So I've always had something. I've had either a business or a project. I'm a creative guy, so I like building and creating or renovating or cars or whatever. So I've always had some sort of project. And so when I've started to get into that chemical imbalance, that downward spiral, my default mode is to just go to work, drive to the office and do something, go onto a building site or do something, or go into the garage and do something. And so, with COVID going on, no travel, being, literally stranded here, it sounds extreme, but, we love living here, but, not being able to leave here and go and do things, I didn't have that project, that I could put a lot of time into. And so I didn't automatically go to working hard. And so that was the missing puzzle piece. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that. And so what I've learned now is I'm one of these sick, twisted individuals that loves and needs hard work. And, when I say I've been the most productive, I'm so fired up right now that sleep feels like a waste of time. I'm working till about 1:40 in the morning, and I'm getting up and I'm out of bed by 6 and, going for hikes up the mountain. I'm doing minimum of 100 burpees after a hike. And I'm just fired up from all angles. If you look back about 9-10 months ago, it was the opposite. I was stacking on weight. I was sleeping in. I was upset and depressed.
Unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. It's you ever thought that maybe the go-to, which is hard work, is the one that kept you from really finding the elements underneath that you needed to find?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Because that happens, some people are workaholics for that reason. It's an avoidance behavior. In your case, it might not be, you're just an ambitious guy and you just love producing and being, us guys like to be useful. I think we need to be doing something.
I know what you're saying. It's avoidance and like a distraction from facing, a potential to grow.
Yeah. Who would ever call hard work procrastination? Because it's really a type of procrastination from something else. Excuse me. Awesome stuff. Really love having these conversations because a lot of people can relate to it. You and I have never had this conversation before, and there's stacks of people out there that never have it, and that probably should be having it. Let's change gear a little bit. You spent many, many years in business. You practically been self-employed since you were in your late teens, from what I gather. How do you, and you've been in many, many businesses, had many ventures, and most have been successful. Some obviously haven't, that's a cause of life. How do you take your skills from one venture across to the next? How do you find that, how do you find what's useful in one place that's going to be useful in the next, and there's something that are not going to be useful? In fact, they're going to prevent you from having success. How do you evaluate that?
Yeah, great question. And something that I've read years and years ago when I first started personal development and business, like learning about business, is a lot of these exceptionally great business people, these really successful people and these coaches will tell you it doesn't matter what you're doing, it just matters how you're doing it. And part of me buys into that. I get part of that, but also part of that, it does matter what you're doing, especially in 2021. But it's how you do it, right? So one of the biggest traps to fall in for an entrepreneur and a business owner, I believe now, looking back, is being highly skilled in the technical work that the business does. So my first major business was in cabinet making, and I'm a cabinet maker. And I don't know if I'm a control freak or what, but I've got fairly high standards in terms of finishing qualities and things like that. And so that probably held me back from really expanding the business because, I'd sort of want to do everything. And I guess to the detriment of my business and my health and my time, taking too much on. So that's one thing I learned early, was to delegate and to get the activities that are the most time consuming, but the cheapest to outsource. Things like bookkeeping and admin work and, all of that, just outsource that straight away. And so that's a lesson I learned like 20 years ago in business, maybe 18 years ago. But it's something I've been able to take through into everything. What about just 2020? So many people had to work from home, right? Even if they were employed, so many people had to work from home. And it can be the most productive thing you've ever done in your life, or it could be the most unproductive thing you've ever done in your life, because there's so many other distractions. And the other day, actually, and so this is not something that you learn once and it's with you forever. It's you still got to continue to learn this, and the people around you have to understand it. And how I said I've been the most productive I've been in years. So the other day, Rebecca went off to town to do some stuff, and I was working out in the front deck on the computer, getting stuff done, editing videos, creating documents, all of this sort of stuff. And Beck got back and she goes, "Oh my God, the dishes are still there, Michael. Like, what's going on?" And I said, the day that the dishes go to my number one on my priority list is the day that, it's not worth living. At the end of the day, the dishes or cleaning the house or whatever should never be right up in my priority list when I can outsource that. And, we have a housekeeper and we get all that sort of stuff done. So, outsourcing and delegation, absolutely something that no matter what you're doing, can prioritize your time to be in that productive zone. And then that sort of ties in with task management / time management, really being aware of what you're doing. And I think the best thing that I ever did on that was keep a written log of, every 15 minutes of my day. And this was years ago. I just, every 15 minutes, I was writing down what I did for what I did in that 15 minutes, and then sit back at the end of the week and audit your time and just go, oh my God, how much time did I waste? How much time did I waste doing stupid things? Betting on two ants climbing up a wall, like while you're sitting with your mates, like waste half an hour doing that. That's obviously a crazy example, but having awareness around that and really scheduling your activity out, planning it, and then sticking to it, making those decisions when you're in a good state of mind, and then sticking to it when you're in the turmoil of the week.
Yeah, it's an interesting one when you do a time study every 15 minutes and realize you're doing stupid stuff, that just has no. And then once you have your time study done, the key is, which task do you start buying right now so you can buy back your time. I want to go back to, you said control freak, so that allows me to use the word because it sets up a challenge in business. When you're a control freak, it essentially usually means that somebody is really competent and really good at something. How do you get team or staff up to speed at a level you're at so you can let go of the task, so you stop being that control freak? Because the control freak or the as highly skilled or competent person is really a barrier to leverage and success. How did you get past that? Because I remember 5.5 years ago, you and I having quite a solid conversation about this. I said, Mike, stop doing this stupid. And because you kept doing the same things over and over again, because you were the most competent person on your team. How did you move past that and allow the team to grow?
So the first part is exactly what you just said, having outside influence, coaching, guidance, mentoring, perspective from someone else. You can't, so much stuff you can't see when you're up to your eyeballs in it. Even the coach needs a coach, sort of thing. So that certainly helps to then bring awareness around it and then step back and go. And sometimes even, especially if you're a control freak, that can be hit with a bit of resistance or ego or whatever, and then even if you do that as a knee-jerk reaction, then you got to step back and go, oh, hang on, break it down, hang on, where's the learning here? There's a learning for sure. But then going, okay, well, it may be the facts, maybe in my cabinet making business, say maybe I was the best installer that our company had. Okay, but how did I get there? How did I become the best installer? I put in a lot of time, I made a lot of mistakes, and I had some good guidance and mentoring in terms of standards. And I set myself up with a few key phrases all the time. And one of them from a cabinet making point of view is, would you accept that in your house? So that's what got me through and got me to be skilled and competent in that space. So then you go, okay, well, let's duplicate that. And so how does that look? How does that work? In the business that we're in together now in health and well-being, it works by doing the work together. First up, I'll do it. It's the same as an apprenticeship. First up, I'll do the work and you watch as a new person, right? Then we do the work together, and then you do the work and I'll watch and critique, and then you're doing it. So that's the process. Now, this is why I love working with sharp, motivated people, because that process could be seriously as short as like 2 weeks. It could be 2 weeks, and then they're up and running. And so then understanding what that formula looks like in terms of a graph. So, at the beginning, my computer is about to die. 2 seconds, hang on.
Well, here we go, guys. This is the fun of doing live. You're back.
I think somebody was making a coffee and turned off my computer.
So I thought you were at the back, priming the generator.
So the next thing is understanding how that looks, and a saying that I've used a long time, because I know that there's things that I'm good at, but there's things that I'm terrible at, and the saying that I've programmed myself in with is what I lack in skill or talent, I make up in time and effort. And so at the beginning, when you're taking yourself out of the equation and replacing yourself with someone doing the role that you were doing at the beginning, let's say their conversion on the work is going to be less than what you did, but they just need to do a little bit more. And then they sort of switch around. You know what I'm saying there? So, let's say, just to keep numbers simple, let's say I convert 5 out of 10, and a new person converts 1 out of 10. So they've got to do 50 to my 10 to produce the same result. And so as they get better, then they'll start doing 40, 30, 20, and then they're down to 10, and then that's gold. And it's that sort of that average. So yeah, it's just understanding it's all part of the process. And then if you're looking in terms of leverage, what if that same situation, if I'm converting, say, 5 out of 10 and they're converting 1 out of 10, but what if I'm training 5 people? And then I've completely replaced myself. And then what about when they all get better? Then I've multiplied myself 5 times.
Awesome, man. I love it, and now you're getting into numbers as well, which we'll probably cover. But I've heard a lot of quotes. I recognised a lot of authors and mentors in your language, which tells me, you've read more books than on how to join carpentry. It hasn't just. You don't sound like the average chippy. Do you know what I mean? Who's focused on the doing. You've done a lot of personal development. How does personal development? How does it fit in? How much time? How do you get in that in balance with what you do?
Yeah. First of all, it's everything. Like, it is the number one thing. It should be the number one thing in everyone's life. We should be continually growing. This is the thing that will give you sustainable joy, for starters. There's universal law. If we're not growing, we're dying. So we need to be doing that. Life's busy, but man, it's 2021. The convenience we have around personal development is insane. So there's so many platforms out there that can absolutely suck away your time, your life, your mojo, everything, and give you a warped perception on reality. Like platforms like Instagram, platforms like TikTok. Instagram, there's 2 generations of people that think Lambos and private jets just come from, doing a few butt crack posts every now and again or whatever. It's insane the amount of people who have been set up to fail, but those same platforms can set you up to win. So you just choose. You be very selective as to what you put in, and set it up in a way that it's easy to sustain. So who do you follow on Instagram? Who do you follow on TikTok? Who do you follow on Facebook or Twitter? What are they putting out? Is it going to make the boat go faster? That whole thing that Mr. Rick Carney shared with me years ago. And then set yourself up to be able to have that. So, I'll be on those platforms, multiple times a day, but very rarely am I choosing, how I like my toast cooked, those sort of stupid things. I'm always like looking to get the value, following people who have produced the level of results that I'm looking for. Audible, phenomenal. That thing that you can use in the net time that you are burning anyway. If you're going for a walk, put Audible on. If you're doing your 100 burpees, have it playing on a speaker, so while you're doing it, you're listening. And driving in the car. There's so many convenient ways to do it now. Podcasts are phenomenal. Listening in on conversations with 2 amazing minds, just like this one.
Take it.
It's all around us everywhere, and it's convenient. But then scheduling it and making it happen. So for me, I've actually flipped it. For me, it was always first thing in the morning. I would do it while I'm on the beach or something like that. But now I'm actually doing it late at night. I do it in the evening. I do it about 10, 11 p.m. And I'm learning and I'm upskilling. And it's not just in terms of mindset and personal development, as in business coaching and life coaching and getting those sort of personal growth things. It's also skill set. The world's moving so fast now that you need to be skilled in more than one area. So I've been training myself in all different sorts of things, getting skills and talents and abilities that probably I used to outsource, but it's tough to outsource on an island here. So I need to learn it myself if I'm going to go and achieve the goals that I want to achieve in business. So scheduling that time in to learn and grow, and then understanding that you've got to do it. You're never going to be perfect, and you've got to put time in. And so where is that time? So for me, I've had to go without 2 hours sleep every day for the last 2 months. Some people would rather sleep than go and live the life of their dreams. So I'm the opposite. I cut out 2 hours of my sleep and put 2 hours a day into learning certain software that I'm using right now. And I'm, it comes from doing those hours. But then, learning and to cut 2 hours sleep out, you just can't go cut 2 hours sleep out. So you've got to learn a bit about that. So you jump on a podcast or read a book or an audio around sleep and what do we need and what's healthy. And because, I'm all about health and well-being. So we live in the best time ever. It doesn't matter if you come from a privileged background and go to one of the best universities ever, or whether you're coming out of the slums in a third world country. You can get the same education. It might not be formal, but if you can get a Wi-Fi connection, you can learn. Like the podcasts that I listen to are some of the most amazing professors from around the world. Now, people pay $250,000 a year to sit in and listen to their lectures, and I can jump onto YouTube or podcasts and get the same thing. The world it's blown my mind. What's innovation going to go like over the next 10 years with how this is happening? It's insane.
It's going to go crazy. Now, when you say personal development is number one, I agree mentally with it, but time-wise, that's not how you meant it. So it doesn't mean 8 hours of personal development a day, 1 hour of producing. How do you balance it? What do you find is a good balance? And does it change as you evolve?
It changes and evolves. So going back like 18, 20 years ago when I started, I could do 15 minutes a day and that's it. I only had 15 minutes. And here's the thing, it feels fantastic. It's like a drug, personal development. It feels fantastic. And so we all want to feel good. So we want to do more, and you can get in that trap of becoming like a crazy, educated, developed derelict that's doing nothing. So you need, and I can't remember where I got this from, but it stuck with me forever. It was learn a little bit and then put it to work. Learn a little bit, put it to work. Learn a little bit and put it to work. Now, I've seen people that have spent, tens, if not hundreds of thousands on personal development, and they've got no return on it because they're just in that learning hole. Really, it's a learning pit. They're in there. They're just churning and learning. Whereas if they just implemented what they had learnt for the free course or the $500 course or whatever, then it would have paid for all the other personal development that they've done. So yeah, it evolves. And there's been times in my life where I've gone, no more. I'm not doing it. I'm having a break. I'm having a break for a while. I'm gonna, I've got so much rolling around in my head that if I pour any more in, it's going to dilute it. So let's implement what we've got. Let's, get that. And what works for someone doesn't always work for someone else as well. So, testing and measuring and working out, okay, what can we file in the bin and forget about, and what are we going to implement into our routine, and then get that solid and then start personal development again.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think what you're referring back to is when I first learned the personal development, started reading, they called it 30-10 times. So you spend 30 minutes reading and you spend 10 minutes thinking about how can I make that work for me today or in the future. So something like that. One of the guys I read years ago is a guy called Larry Winget. He talked about don't become a ditto head. Don't just sit and do so much personal development that you sound like them and do nothing. He said, don't, they give you an arrow to say, go this way. Don't become the arrow. Don't focus on the arrow. Focus on the direction that you're given and then go and implement it. So glad you brought that up. Island life and driving your business remotely. I mean, when you first started doing that, people thought you're crazy, right?
Yeah.
How did you work it in? Because it was new for you, it was new for us. We had to get used to, working with you, that, we have one of our strong leaders in our team now remotely. How did it go then compared to now that the world has adjusted and everyone else is doing it just from home?
Yeah, I really think I'm the reason to blame for COVID and this disruption. I put it out into the universe and made that happen. No, it's become, Skype, Zoom, it's a household name. Everybody knows how to do it now. The world has moved. We're probably going to look back at 2020/2021 as a couple of years where everything just evolved super fast from an online point of view. So it's, the human element in business you'll never lose, but this is pretty close for me sitting with you, in a room anyway. So, we're getting more and more able to bring the human element online. regardless of where you're at. I saw someone that I follow the other day. They've now got these hologram cubes. Have you seen those? Oh my God, you can't even tell. It looks like just someone sitting in a cube. So you can literally be anywhere now and deliver just as much and as powerful content as you are as if you're there. So yeah, it's moved really. It's the market's moved to a point that's insane for opportunity, but that'll pass you by if you don't have awareness around it. So that's where I've done a lot of stuff online for the last 3 years. But I also, pre-COVID times, was traveling 1 week a month, either to Australia, New Zealand, or sometimes the US. And so I could never get rid of that face-to-face stuff. But, I still love the face-to-face stuff, and I'll still do that because I love it. But I believe now we're at a point where if you get systems and procedures in place and get the right setup, you can do 100% online for the first time in human history, I reckon, in the industry that we're in. So it's a pretty unique time. And yeah, I don't want to look back in 5 years and go, man, why didn't I? Or, why didn't I put in a bit more? Or why didn't I do that little bit extra?
Yeah, it makes sense. It's, aside from the horrific health stuff going on with COVID, it really was a blessing in disguise for business because it's accelerated business by at least a decade. So we are where we would have been in 2030.
And the other thing is lifestyle. People, like, our lifestyles were impacted so much and could be perceived in a negative way, but how much has it changed the perception of value, time with people, time with loved ones? People that have cut back from working 5 or 6 days a week now had their hours cut down to 3, and then all of a sudden gone, well, I could have gone without my 6 coffees a day or my extra SUV or whatever it is, and going, well, now maybe I don't want to go to 5-6 days a week. Maybe I want to stay at 3 days a week. Maybe I found out what's important in life. And it's almost like this huge awakening that, and this is going way sort of towards the conspiracy theory path, but, this prison that we've all been born into where we've got to work for 50, 60 years of our life. It's, and when I say work, I mean, like, the number one priority is that, and skimp the little bit of time you got left to try and get a life and enjoy together. People aren't buying it as much as they were and going, hang on, maybe there are other ways. And that's why one of our businesses has become, such an attractive thing, because it's a lifestyle business. You can take it with you. You can do it from anywhere. And, I guess we're a great example of that, out in the middle of the Pacific here, being able to run it globally.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I don't think it's a conspiracy. We've just been educated through the Industrial Revolution. Get yourself an education, go and work for a big factory. In this case, it could be anything now. And we get our formal education and we do 9 to 5, 5 days a week. Work 5, enjoy 2. But you guys, you work 7 and enjoy 7. Talk to me about, I don't want to use the word work-life balance because I don't think it's that anymore. I think that's a fallacy. How about work-life integration? Tell me how you do that, because I see your videos and I'm going, now he's doing a Zoom, now he's on a boat, now he's catching a fish, now he's cooking a fish, now he's playing with the kids, you're the girls out in the boat, now he's having date night. I mean, it looks fantastic. Is it as fantastic as you show us, as we believe it is, because that's our little fantasy back here in the industrial world? Tell me how do you integrate it?
Okay, I think that started for me from a super young age, and I can never work out where I got this stuff from. But so I got a job as a cabinet maker. So I lived at the beach with my parents, right, in my parents' house. I'm a beach guy. I love the ocean. I love the environment. And the job I got was about 45 minutes away from their house. And so that was a long commute. And then when I ended up buying my own house, the people I worked with saying, well, why don't you buy something like 5-10 minutes from work? And it's like, well, why wouldn't I want to live where I want to live and then commute to work? Because I'm all about, my life's not about what I'm doing at work. My life's about what I'm doing in between work. And so I bought a house in a spot where a lot of people holiday. And if those of you from Australia or South Australia, you'd know Glenelg. So people go to holiday in Glenelg. So imagine finishing work every day and then going on a holiday until you got to go to work the next day. So, that was sort of like that balance. And it's not work-life balance, it's life. It's just life. You need to enjoy it. And I was enjoying what I was doing at work, and I was enjoying my time away from work. But then I realized, once a wife comes along and children come along and all that, then I was spending too much time at work and I needed more time away from work. So then it's, okay, well, what can give me that? And, we look at business, and business wasn't giving me that. So business is a big umbrella, and I was looking at a small part of it. But there are businesses out there that were offering that. And I also know that if you find your passion, you'll never work a day in your life. Now, I said I love the ocean, I love fishing and all of that sort of stuff. But if I just owned a charter or something like that, then I would still hate it. I would end up hating my passion. So then, for me, I accidentally found something I'm really passionate about. I was passionate about my own health and well-being, but I didn't know just how passionate I could be about helping others with that. And then personal development, coaching others, and just having a positive impact on people's lives. So, that's the way I generate my income. It's literally doing what I love doing anyway. And the beauty of it is you can fit it in the cracks of your schedule, and you can do it globally. So, there's flexibility in that. So if I do the right scheduling, I can have breakfast, lunch, and dinner with my kids. I can play games of hide and seek, chasey. We can go snorkeling or free diving after school. I can go fishing in the morning before I jump on Zooms and webinars and things like that. I can go fishing in the evening before dinner. And then, after dinner, I can sit down and I can work on myself and all that. So it's literally, and this is so cliche, but it's what I've worked really hard to do, is live a life by design. I physically never have to do something I don't want to do anymore. And it took me probably 37 years of my life to get there. 36, 37 years to get to a point where I don't, we've all had that feeling where it's like, man, I don't want to do this today. And so I saw somebody asked a question in one of the Facebook groups I'm in the other day, when will you retire? And I said, well, what's the definition on retirement? Because if it's my definition of retirement is when you're not retired, you're doing things you don't want to do to finance your lifestyle. When in my point of view, being retired is, just doing things you want to do all the time, and regardless if it generates an income or not. So, if retirement means no longer producing, no longer being productive, no longer working hard, then I'll never retire. I'll continue. But if retirement's the definition that I believe, I retired back when I was 35. So, so it happens by design, and it happens by modeling others, following in footsteps, listening to people, and taking advice from people who are where you want to be. Not the people, like you said, not the people that are saying one thing but not congruent with their actions and their life, and then implementing that, and then being consistent. Consistency is the number one thing in everything, in your health, in your finances, in business, in relationships. You just can't be father of the year one day out of 365. You got to chip away at that every day. You just can't eat healthy one day and then just load up on junk food for the rest. You got to do it every day. So yeah, that's how we've gone about it. And when you mentioned about the videos and what we post on social media and so forth, some of the guidance that I've had from others is I should be doing more than that. I should have been taking advantage of what our life looks like here, and sharing that with what's possible for inspiration and motivation, and even attraction type marketing. And my blockage over the last 12 months or so has been really understanding where everyone's at. And the last person I wanted to be was that guy that's rubbing everyone's face in it when they're in lockdown. The life's going crazy. They're just focusing on what's the dramas are right now. And then here's this idiot living on an island, no mask, no restrictions, doing whatever the hell he wants. And I never wanted to be that guy either. But now, as things are starting to free up, I've got a whole heap of content that I've got together. I'm going to be pumping out video every week, and hopefully I can inspire people to do a couple of things. One, to get out and live the life that they want to live, and two, to respect the environment and the planet and what we have, so that it's there for our kids and their kids and so forth. Because whatever you're going through right now, life and everything is more beautiful than the rubbish that's going on. And everyone and anyone can get there. And there's probably been never a better time in our recent human history to make it happen.
Unbelievable. Retirement, from what? It's always the question. If you need to retire, you're doing something wrong. I recall years ago when I thought retirement was a thing to do, and I was in a position to do it. So I did, and I found, that's not where I wanted to be. And I ended up being busier than when I actually physically retired. And I did a little bit of everything, because I don't know about you, but my brain works by doing lots of little things, not one long continual thing. And I think that's what you're doing in your life in a similar way, but just in different areas, because we've got different interests and different hobbies. I don't want to fish. You want to fish, I want to fly. So it's one of those things. How do you then ensure, last question here, because I'm aware that we are on 45 minutes or something. How do you then ensure that as you're integrating everything into your life, and it's not as cut and dry as 9 to 5, how do you ensure that you don't spend too much time on one thing only or two things only, then neglect the others? We talked about family and kids and Beck, because you've got to maintain your relationship, friendships. How about mic time as well? I guess that's the fishing that we see. How do you ensure that you don't get out of whack with it?
Yeah, great question. And something that I've battled with my whole life, and because of that work ethic as well, is, when I have been at the beach, enjoying the beach, I'm thinking about work and what needs to be done. When I am, let's say, hanging with the kids, I'm thinking about something else. Like, that's what I was like forever. And so when I was at work, all I wanted to be was with the kids or at the beach or whatever it is. And so I wouldn't be so productive at work, but then I wouldn't enjoy the time with the kids or at the beach as to the fullest. And so the thing that's helped me for that is scheduling and goal setting. First of all, setting the goals on where you want to be, and then planning the activity that needs to be done to achieve those goals, then scheduling that activity in and sticking to that schedule as tight as you can. It's the only way I know how to do it, because if you're not scheduling and you're just going with the flow, then you will gravitate towards the easy things. You will, and you're not going to move every area forward. So you can't neglect your health for longer than a few weeks or a few months, maybe. You can't neglect your relationship for longer than a few weeks or a few months. You can't neglect the business for a few weeks or a few months. Everything can pay a price short term if something goes mad and crazy, but you just need to be moving all of those little checkers forward on the board all the time, and knowing that you got to work at it. The statistics around marriages failing is because no one works at it. It's not like you get married and then we're together forever. You got to work at it. That's why there's the date nights that you see happen and all that sort of stuff. And quality time, walking, and then knowing what fills your cup. For me, it's getting in the ocean, getting on the ocean, seeing the ocean, or even getting up in the rainforest or whatever. That I need to fill my cup. And so you've got to schedule that in. There's only so long you can neglect that before you start to feel drained and go, what's it all about? Why am I doing this? Like Monday was a great example. So Monday, and having flexibility, I guess, is what I'm getting to as well. So Monday was a pupil-free day for the kids. So we homeschool them at the guest house up the back. We've got a school teacher that comes and homeschools them, so we're still just parents. But then Morgan's like, Dad, I want to go for a swim. And we'd had a fair bit of swell come through, so it wasn't real clear in front of our house here. So I guess it's not real nice. She goes, yeah, can we go out onto the reef? And I'm like, okay, why? There's no reason why we can't. I'll just shuffle a few things around. And so I said, yeah, we've got like an hour. Let's do it. So she grabs a mermaid tail, all that. Just her and I go out there and we're swimming around. We find this anemone with clownfish and all that sort of stuff. And I'm going, like, this is the best thing ever. And in my head, quality time with kids is doing the things that they want to do with them, not doing the things you want to do with them. And so I really wanted to be more productive in that hour, and I'd planned something else. But, shuffling that around, having that flexibility, that's something that she'll never forget. I know she'll never forget that for the rest of her life. She felt like a mermaid swimming around there, and, the interacting with the clownfish. So, yeah, planning things out, having flexibility, having awareness, and literally having a little goal and action plan for each area.
You got to make me a promise. Next time you go on that reef, I want to see you with the mermaid tail, just for the hell of it. Please, just amuse me. You made a really powerful distinction to me just then. So despite being retired or living the life that you want to live, and you're free to do whatever you like, you haven't allowed yourself a freedom from a plan. That is the key, isn't it? That's what you just said. You need to have that discipline to have it planned in place, because I think most people believe that freedom is not having a diary or not having a schedule to run through. But you're saying, no, you must, because otherwise you will get out of whack. So that was a really good distinction for me there.
Yep. And it has to tick every box, and you need to know all about yourself. And that's where I failed. Early last year I failed. I didn't know. I thought I didn't want to work. I thought it was like awesome. I don't have to work. I don't want to work. And turns out I do.
I'm free. No, I'm not. I've got different shackles.
I had the family stuff going. I had the nutrition stuff going. I had the exercise going. I had contribution. I had all these things, personal development and all of that, the spiritual and my connection. But the thing I was missing was productivity. I wasn't productive enough on a project. And so without that piece, I was, no puzzle's complete. With one piece missing, a puzzle isn't complete. So you've got to plan it, put it together, and then action it.
Awesome. I'm out of questions. Well, I'm not. I didn't really have any to start with. But for anyone that's watching this, they might be starting their journey. They might be on their journey. They might be looking at, how can I take my journey further? Or maybe they're even stuck. I know I'm just dumping you in the deep end here. Any words of wisdom, advice, ideas? How would they? What can you share that might be useful, other than the last 50 minutes, which have been awesome?
So, just starting, the cliche, you don't have to be great to start, but you've got to start to be great, is so true. So if you're looking to do something, if you've started something but then got derailed or whatever it is, start and evaluate along the way. Model yourself and your activity on someone who's created the results that you want in the space that you're in, and plan it, and then be consistent. That's all you got to do. And you have to trust that process. And that process isn't going to be like Instagram tells you like this. It's not going to go, here I am, Lambo, private jet. It's not going to go there. It's going to go like this. It's going to go crazy. But the universal law is, if you're a good person and you're doing good things, good stuff happens. So, plan to be a good person, plan to do good things, and then actually do those good things, and it takes care of itself.
What about people, maybe you said that are plateaued or looking, for that next leap? They've gone to here and now they want to go to the next level. What's their go-to? What's their thought? What's your thought process on that?
Again, like analyzing, where am I at? Seeing things. Here's what people do. They see things worse than they are all the time. So first of all, see things as they are, not worse than they are. And then visualize what they'll look like when they're better. And then get some help. Sit down with a coach or a mentor and go, this is where I'm at. This is where I want to be. I've got a blockage. How do I get there? And the third person perspective looking in, the second person looking in, can break that down into action steps and go, oh, that's easy. You just go here, here, and here. And then not getting overwhelmed, like I said, with the cleanup that we had here, not getting overwhelmed looking around at what needs to be done, but just focusing on what's the next step. And then doing the next step. And then when that's done, what's the next step? And then doing that. So, never be afraid to ask for help and guidance. And never feel like that you should know everything, or you should know how to do it. You should know what you want and how to and what you want it to look like. But then if you knew how to get there, you'd already have it. So it's going to be a process.
Awesome. Okay, let's wrap this up. For anyone that's watching this, hope you enjoyed it. There's been a lot of information here. I really enjoyed it myself. Please subscribe to our channel here. Share the channel with somebody else you believe should be watching this right now. There'll be more and more stuff going into this channel like this. Michael Simon, I really enjoyed it. Lots of great information. Thank you for your time this morning. I know you're very busy, and more importantly, thank you for your friendship as well.
Not a problem, Jan. Thanks so much for having me on. Really enjoyed it, and I can't wait for the next one.
Cheers, buddy. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.